Hello, everyone, and welcome to Steel Sharpens Steel. Obviously, we are featuring our very special guest today, Brother Rob McGowan and Patrice McKenzie. So, we're going to open the show now and say hello to everyone. First of all, Rob, introduce yourself. Tell the people what we're talking about.
What's up? How you doing? Rob McGowan, life coach, consultant, black man, podcaster, a proud member of Capital Facade Attorney Incorporated. Yeah, that's me. Nutshell.
All right. And Patrice.
Good evening. I'm Patrice Marshall McKenzie, educator, community advocate, newly elected member to the Pasadena Unified School District Board of Education, and super excited to be here. And Rob is absolutely one of my favorite people, so this is going to be a huge treat for me. And passionate about all things that promote, support, expand, and elevate Black women's leadership.
Well, we are absolutely thrilled to have you on the show. Joy, I know you wanted to do something special to open the show today, so I'm going to give it to you.
Yes, today's show could have been brought to you by Target if they wanted to come up off a little bit of sponsorship dollars. But in spite of that, I'm going to pay it forward and let you know that Target is one of the few people that really does Black history right. I got this sweatshirt from Target. If you can't see, it says, "My voice, my power." There's a male and female version in pink and blue. That's a whole nother story, but still, it's Black History Month. And I want everybody to know what I like about Target. In addition to that, hang on, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Hold on. I gotta go get my blanket. I forgot all about it.
She's got a blanket, y'all. There's a blanket coming.
Wait, there's more. There's more. They also have this amazing Black, and then I sat on it. Black Panther. Can't really see. Yeah, there he is. Black Panther and Miles Morales version of Spider-Man.
What?
Yes. On
is that one blanket?
And the artist, Nicholas, oh my goodness. Nicholas, the artist, is a Black artist, and he was commissioned to do this artwork. There's this version. There's another like cream and beige version with Storm on it as well, celebrating Black heroes during Black History Month with a Black artist. And they started selling it before February 1st. Target gets it right. Walmart, pay attention, okay? But anyway, so today could have been brought to you by Target because clearly I have endorsed them and I've got all their stuff.
Exactly. So we celebrate people who take the time to do things in an appropriate fashion, and we take people to task who choose to engage in some tomfoolery. So this isn't even on the show lineup, but since we started talking about who's doing things right, I just have an example of something that's being done wrong. So there was a school district that decided they were going to celebrate Black History Month by having a special lunch of chicken, waffles, and watermelon cubes. Now, I'm a fan of chicken. I'm a fan of waffles. I'm a fan of watermelon. But here's the thing. That could and should be food for any time of the year. But when you make a choice of, let's just wait and see what we can do for the Blackish of histories and months, and let's make sure we know that we are celebrating the Black history by putting out chicken and waffles and watermelon. And when I tell you, this picture looked like some grandmama fried chicken over a delicious waffle with like some drizzled real 100% maple syrup, not no log cabin foolishness, and then these delicately sliced watermelon cubes.
So it was gourmet.
So there were
gourmet
four
supreme.
cubes. It looked like a cover shoot for Bon Appetit. Now, you know, in some public school, it was some banquet ass chicken, some barely defrosted Eggos, and a limp watermelon wedge. It didn't look nothing like this, but they were like,
watermelon fruit roll up.
Exactly. Oh, yes, watermelon fruit leather. That's what it would have been. And so they kind of copped and realized, you know, oh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have had done that. But this is the whole point. This is why, you know, Rob and I have a frat brother who is a master chocolatier, Philip Ashley Rich. He does amazing things with chocolate. They call him the Black Willy Wonka. When I tell you he has a soul food collection where he has in his truffles, he's got the crispy skin of fried chicken as one of the elements of the candy. So you get the sweet and the savory. He's got a sweet potato ganache in a chocolate. He's got, like, I mean, doing all sorts of different things. He did a 50 state collection where each chocolate in the collection was flavored after a state.
I remember that.
And I was doing some things for that. He's got the most delicious chocolate turtles you've ever seen in your life. Beautiful, wonderful, amazing. There are chefs doing amazing things, Black people who are doing amazing things. You want to celebrate Black history, then concentrate on something that is not a stereotype. And then don't try to put it out there like you deserve a cookie for giving a kid fried chicken. Kids eat fried chicken all the damn time.
Right.
That should be something where you're trying to say and isolate that as some sort of expression of Black excellence, unless you bring in some Black mama who can cook her ass off and give the kids some fried chicken they ain't never had before.
Let me tell
You
you.
already know it was Tyson.
Oh, not even
chicken nuggets.
Thank
or
you.
Chicken pieces.
Machine processed chicken nugget strippage. Foolishness. Absolute foolishness.
And let me tell you how they could have turned this around if they had done a little bit more research, spent a little bit more time, served the exact same meal and not been vilified for it. If they knew more, this is what Black history is really about. They could have said in honor of the history of Gladys Knight. They could have given a little history about Gladys Knight, Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, et cetera, et cetera. They could have said, so we're doing something themed off of that restaurant, and that's why we're serving chicken and waffles. And they could have corrected the erroneous history of the watermelon, because watermelon was one of the few crops that Black people during Reconstruction and right after the Civil War that they were able to grow, because the fruit is heavy. Nobody wants to transport all that around. So white farmers generally didn't mess with watermelon, but it was good. So it was a crop that would sell. So Black people, not only did they sell watermelon in the city or in the town or whatever, they also, it's a source of a great antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, extremely juicy. It fills you up on a summer day. So it was a good food to have. And because they were getting so much relative economic stability from selling watermelon, white people started to make fun of it. And you start to see the caricatures of the big red lips eating watermelon. That's why they did that, because that was a cash crop for farmers that were usually not given the choice seeds of like wheat, corn, cotton, etc., but they could get those watermelon seeds, and they turned it around and made something out of it. And then, because history is all jacked up, they don't let Black people understand how that history is not what we think it is, and we learn to hate it ourselves. So if they had spin that story, tell that side of it and said, we're reclaiming watermelon. Maybe that's a whole different story. But you got to know that to talk about that.
Hey, I
We could
reclaim
have a whole
watermelon
lecture
all the
on
time.
watermelon as Black resistance, given that this year's theme for Black History Month is Black resistance. Shame for that missed opportunity.
Well, it's interesting. Rob, go ahead. You were about to jump in on something about the watermelon.
No, I said I reclaimed watermelon a long time ago. I don't think I let it go, actually. And the crazy thing is, if people really understood that that soul food is actually Southern food, white people eat that too. So okay, that's another story though.
Well, but I think this is a big issue. It's what there are certain things, like for instance, I know coming up, right? Oxtails were not $25 a pound. Like oxtails was something that you didn't have to worry about paying a whole lot of money for because it was not considered to be a desirable cut. Neck bones, all those sorts of things, ham hocks, all these sorts of things. And then all of a sudden, we reach a space where it's gourmet and it's just amazing. Now, Jamaican folks, what they do with oxtails, there's a whole lot of things you can do with an oxtail. I know that doesn't apply to you anymore, Rob, since you're vegan. But for the rest of us who am not, that oxtailery is actually delicious. And I'm glad you brought up the theme this year of Black History Month being Black resistance, because I have a good friend, a schoolmate that I went to school with, Eurydice Stanley, and she co-authored a book with Elizabeth Eckford, who was one of the Little Rock Nine. And Elizabeth is actually featured on the poster for Black History Month from the organization that it's the Carter G. Woodson Foundation. And every year they kind of help to do this framing dialogue. And so this year she is depicted on this poster with, I think, 8 or 9 other folks. You could sell eggs to buy oxtails these days. It's be a relatively easy exchange. I got this dozen. Well, I'm looking off some oxtails.
Same time, bro. Same time. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, and seriously, like you think about Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. This Valentine's Day, give her something that shows you really value her. Give her one of them 36 packs of AA grade extra large eggs, baby. You got to make them omelets, them scrambled eggs, them oof. You got to get them oof in the boof and make it work. So if you wanna let your lady get them chocolates is all right, but them eggs though, baby. She knows you had to stand in line.
One night only. Tom Cunningham is Dairy After Dark.
So we do have a show. We actually do have a show. That was a very long intro segment. It's a bit longer than what we usually do. But we do want to shout out again our special guest, Patrice McKenzie, and I spelled her name wrong there, so I'm going to take it away and get into the actual show of the show. And we are going to start off with something that happened this week that was a major event, a major political event, and that is the State of the Union. And lots happened. The GOP was definitely trying to keep it cute and confrontational. And what they ended up doing was setting some things up that didn't quite work so well for them in retrospect. And probably the person who was considered the avatar of GOP absolute foolishness was this heifer right here.
Oh my God. She looks like she's asking for your manager right now.
Oh, I mean, the serenity of this woman is on display. The caucasity. And by the way, it's like the GOP goes out of its way to try to push buttons. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that they are no fans of PETA, but she's there wearing a fur collar and screaming like Cruella de Vil, looking for puppies to add to her coat. Where are the puppies? Margella DeVille, it's something that I can. It's hard to even understand. But during the course of the State of the Union, Joe Biden was making some comments, and she stood up and, following the footsteps of some of her predecessors, exactly. We've got $100. That's the puppies. Sold to the unhinged chick with a collar who needs restraints. So she called Joe Biden a liar in the middle of his discussion about the GOP trying to eviscerate Social Security. And so I know everybody didn't watch the State of the Union, but who would like to weigh in on the state of the State of the Union and what these folks brought to the table, or didn't bring to the table, I guess is a fair way to put it, because it was some absolute ridiculousness.
You know, I think that they are serving their purpose of trying to make America great again. And the reason I say that is if you thought America was great in the 17 and 1800s, where they used to have duels and call each other names and lick spittle and rabid monster and bring buckets of spit into the halls of Congress to prove a point, that buffoonery is back. So yeah, they are hitting it just like the OG. Not the founding fathers, but that whole group about 50 to 100 years after them was a hot ass mess, going all the way up through Andrew Jackson, who I think they tried to fight him 3 or 4 times. Now he deserved it, but 3 or 4 times they tried to fight him. People have been assassination attempts. We have killed presidents before, right? It's kind of our thing. And so what she's doing, the only difference between her and the early, we'll say the mid 1800s, is she's a girl. That's it. So congratulations on losing 140 years of education, progress, civilization, legal knowledge, all of that just gone.
Well, you know, she hasn't had a good couple of weeks. She stepped all over herself in an attempt to try to score points, and actually asked a gentleman who was there to talk about COVID budgets and tried to get him to offer an explanation as to her opinion that a single school received $5 billion in COVID money to support their CRT curriculum. A single elementary school received $5 billion, according to her, in federal funds because of to promote CRT. And the guy was like, I mean, I don't know anything about that. And she's like, well, CRT is this racist thing that makes little white children ashamed of their skin, and that it's not as good as other people's skin. He's like, yeah, so no COVID dollars went to that. And I don't, $5 billion to one school. I don't have anything to contribute to that. And she's jumping all over the place now that she's actually on a committee again, because the Democrats stripped her from her committee assignments. Well, because she was an insurrectionist, and they told her to go. But now that Kevin McCarthy's back, she's got to have her time to shine. But she's not shining, which is the challenge. She's
Cubic zirconia doesn't shine.
No, she's a well, it glints, I guess, but she's just not really bringing anything to the table like I think the GOP expected. Well, I don't know that they expected anything other than chaos. That's right.
They could not have expected that about her. And just for context, $5 billion,
right? Billion
is about 25% of the size of the Los Angeles Unified School District's full operating budget, and it's the second largest school district in the country.
Right. And this was not a California school. It was somewhere in the Midwest that got $5 billion to one school. So she just says stuff. She and Tucker Carlson, with his unhinged ass, just say whatever the hell they want. And there's a certain segment of the population that loves listening to that foolishness. who will sit around and allow them to bray into their ears.
Mhm.
Exactly. You're right, Anthony. Screaming nonsense everywhere, and yet developing a constituency that is willing to follow them to the ends of the earth. It's just kind of the way things operate right now. It just is. But while we're talking about Social Security, because Rick Scott literally, Rick Scott literally said that all federal programs, and of course Social Security and Medicare are federal programs, should be sunset every 5 years. Now, what does that mean for the state of Florida, which has more elderly people per capita than any other state in the country? Well, Mitch McConnell certainly didn't think that it was a good idea, because he hit Rick Scott over the push to sunset Social Security. And Rick Scott tried to say, oh, he's lying. That's not at all what he said. But it is absolutely what he said. When you say you want to sunset all federal programs every 5 years, and Social Security and Medicare represent the second largest pool of money in our budget, that it necessarily makes it a federal program, which means you want to sunset it and start from scratch. You want to zero it out. What are you going to do with the money that has been sitting in there accruing interest that people are paying into? You're just going to reset it every 5 years? That's not a very long time to start from scratch each and every time. You know, that's and privatization is their big thing. They love to privatize everything. And so that's what they thought was going to be the solution. It has not yet worked. It has, every single time they bring it up, nobody is willing to go far enough to actually touch it. And so there is no example. Thank God it wasn't privatized when in 2008, when George W. Bush melted down the entire world. Where would those people be if their money had been in those with Bear Stearns and Goldman Sachs and all those investment banks who were during the bundled mortgages, those tranches of bundled mortgages and short selling and everything else? It would have been a catastrophic disaster for millions, untold millions in this country. And the GOP wants to pretend like that is not what they want to do. It is absolutely what they want to do. And Joe Biden not only called them out on it, but when they started booing him for suggesting what it is that they actually intend to do, they got so riled up. He said, oh, so I'm glad we agree. Social Security and Medicare are off the table. Great.
Nice.
Unanimity. And then they were like, wait, what? It's like, no, bro, you were booing. You said.
Yeah, he got him with that old Bugs Bunny, rabbit season, duck season, and they fell for it.
I mean, they fell right
They walked
into
right
it. It's
into
like,
it.
and what are you going to do? That's no longer a hostage. You can't put that in the debt ceiling negotiation. And he doesn't have very much to negotiate, actually. Wait, put that back up.
I'm gonna put it back up. Okay, so one more time, I'm gonna tell y'all, don't be writing these paragraphs, but this is a good comment. It was the most disrespectful display I've seen in a while. Santos at the door like a Walmart greeter, Marjorie Taylor Greene yelling like a drunk, ignorant, privileged white woman. Every time she and DeSantis say the word woke, it does something to my soul. I felt this comment, so I wanted to put it up. But when I saw the size, I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
But she's right.
No, it's absolutely right. And it's a travesty that this is what we get from the so-called GOP leadership. They are not leading anything. They are racing to the bottom of the toilet bowl, and they are trying to create a circumstance where chaos may create some opportunity for them to finagle some little piece of leverage. But let's be clear, George Santos is holding on by a thread, y'all. And when he gets
a thread of that scarf he stole.
I know that's right.
But what's amazing is that the same folks who were against Social Security and Medicare, that's the largest percentage of the viewing audiences of the State of the Union.
Right.
What was it, like 73%?
55 and older. And the largest
that's all they have to do.
Viewing audience was on Fox News. So they all hate watch the State of the Union.
Right.
And McCarthy didn't want to stand. There was this whole thing about the GOP not standing and clapping for anything, but he just ended up like, okay, just fine. And he sat down. He was so embarrassed that he finally felt like he just had to unequivocally stand up and support what was going on and what the president was saying. And it was, a lot of people say a lot of things about Joe Biden, but he pulled that out of whole cloth. He heard it. It wasn't scripted, but as soon as he heard what was going on, he turned on a dime and put them in a really tough spot. And although they came out, of course, they're going to say these things. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders, that is an unfortunate woman, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She went to the Tyra Banks Thumb School of Modeling, because this is Sarah Huckabee Sanders whenever you see her on camera. A thumb with a wig. That's what she is.
Looking like
and
that.
and then got called out.
Challenging to view.
It's in high definition, sweetheart. You need to go right back to SD. Go back to VHS circa 1983.
Beta.
Yeah, beta. Well, beta's better than VHS, so you don't want even beta. You want to get
Never
that
mind.
low. No, you want to get that lower resolution. And had the nerve to say it's no longer a competition between left and right. It's a competition between normal and crazy. Girl.
Well, to be fair.
Girl. So which one is you?
She's rooting for crazy.
Somebody I think it was Chan, because he's good for the one line, said she also looks like that screaming at the cat meme, like,
oh yeah, yeah, and here's the cat,
right?
Social Security,
right? The cat is Joe Biden. Like, I said what I said.
That's what I said. Social
And to be fair, President Biden has had the success that he's had legislatively because he knows the Senate, he knows the process. He spent almost 30 years there. So he knows the members, he knows how to manipulate them, he knows how they move, and he knows how to get what he wants from them.
Mm-hmm.
So he can outgame them procedurally and outmaneuver them on the policy side, because these new kids that are in the GOP are just here for the party and to be on Twitter.
Right.
They're not here to do any real work.
No. Ron Johnson.
So he's going to
Gosar.
outmaneuver them every single time.
Yeah, it's not Paul Gosar. He's in the House.
It reminds me of that scene from, It's Not to Kill a Mockingbird. What was it? Well, the movie where they're like, yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn it.
Oh, that's
A Time to Kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I say it reminds me of that is because there was a line that Sam Jackson delivered to Matthew McConaughey, where Matthew was like, I don't know if I'm the right person for this job, blah, 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 blah. He goes, I picked you because you're one of them.
Right.
That's what we have with Joe Biden. He is absolutely one of them. He's 105 years old. He grew up in a time where, saying colored was what you did.
Right.
I'm sure he had a nanny or a maid or something, and he has had to learn inclusion. He has had to struggle and learn about, all the isms, racism, sexism, homophobia, and what even is that? And I can't say this anymore. He is struggling and has, to some degree, started to understand it. I think spending time with the Obamas did a lot for him for that. But now he's still one of them, and they are more inclined to listen to him. And so, to Patrice's point, he's had legislative success because they don't immediately shut him down because of the color of his skin. And he knows how to maneuver and manipulate and get what he wants from a political standpoint, because he's been a political player for the totality of my life.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's the interesting thing about where all of this is headed when Joe is kind of on the rise with some of his accomplishments, especially after the State of the Union. The State of the Union is always a bit of a mixed bag, but he introduced some solid things, especially for it to be Black History Month. He pointed the light on some things that needed to be pointed out, that I think really speaks to some bold and brave choices that he made in terms of setting up what he did. But one of the nice things about being the president, as opposed to being the immediate past vice president, is that sometimes you get caught up in some things that you might wish that you had not had been caught up in. So he's had a tough week again. Michael Pence, they found one more classified doc in his house. But the thing that's really grating on him is that he received a subpoena about January 6th. And Mike Pence don't want to talk about January 6th. That's the last thing he wants to do. He's trying to set himself up for a White House run, and they are now subpoenaing him about his role and what he knew and who had communicated to him about what and plans and everything else. Bear in mind, there are a whole lot of cases still going on. At least two cases in Georgia, and probably a third because the sitting lieutenant governor of Georgia could not be prosecuted under Fani Willis because she had a fundraiser for his opponent. So now they have to find a separate person to prosecute him because he was involved in the fake elector scandal in Georgia. And so those other 15 folks are already in trouble, but he's the lone one who's kind of standing on his own. Then, of course, you have the Trump phone call case. There's all this stuff still roiling going on. And now that the GOP is in charge, they have this new committee, the Weaponization of Government Committee, which they are using to weaponize and get their pound of flesh against the perceived enemies on the Democratic side, because they think that it's their turn. You have the thinnest possible of margins, and when George Santos is removed, it will be even less.
You know, two things, because Rob, I want to give you a chance to weigh in on this as well. But Chan, you're doing the most right here. And I'm debating putting this comment up because I know what you're doing. But yeah, we throw this up here. So Chan's response was, yeah, he wasn't a master baiter that had that pre-planned. He got a little sneaky, linked into an unpopular stance, then pulled out. You know what? Either come on the show or cut it out, Chan.
I know that's right.
But Rob, what's your take on the things we've talked about so far?
Well, listen, first of all, hey, that brother don't want to say nothing because, hey, listen, it's gonna be a wrap for this cat anyway. Listen, first of all, I feel like, and unpopular, if it happens, hey, y'all look out for Trump. Hey, so Pence ain't gonna get by Trump. So you know what I'm saying? He's gonna obliterate him somewhere. So
I don't see
that. To me, so
I think Trump is about as low energy as we have ever seen him. And I don't know if you all have seen very many pictures of Trump lately. He does not look like he did during his apprentice days.
And for the record, Chan did go there. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yes.
Oh no, he absolutely did.
Chan is a mess.
We don't have a problem with that. You gotta watch. Anybody who watches the show, no, we don't have a problem with double and quadruple on time. It's an enigma. Yeah, exactly. It's a paradox wrapped inside an enigma in a boondoggle. So we don't have a problem with that. But Trump literally came out after the State of the Union and said he was a victim. Now, that is not something that you have heard Trump. Trump is always about winning. Trump's brand is, I'm a winner, I'm the best. And to actually come out and say, no, I'm a victim, is, and this is the refrain he's been saying for the last 2 years, it's getting old. And he's in this lawsuit with Carol. The woman he assaulted. I
think to differ real quick. Okay. He's always played both sides of that. I'm the best as ever do it. I've got a good brain. Never trust somebody that says they have a good brain. First of all, he's like, I got a good brain, good. The best brain ever. Nobody's had a brain like big as mine. All of that. But then he'll turn around and say, nobody's ever been treated the way I'm treated in the White. When he was in the White House, nobody's ever been treated the way I've been treated. Nobody's been persecuted. This is a witch hunt. They're trying to lynch me in the media. Blah blah blah. I was like, you do realize that we have murdered multiple presidents in this country, and your ass is still walking around. So clearly, I'm gonna need you to shut down on this whole nobody's been treated this badly. But he's always wanted to be like, look at what they're doing to me. I'm being victimized, but I'm really strong. It's just all part of the cognitive dissonance of the far right.
Yeah, and some people feed into that. They love that shit about him. So, I don't count that cat out.
I will say this. When the Koch brothers, well, there's only one Koch brother now, but when the remaining Koch brother communes with his dead sibling who's in one of the circles of hell, and they decide that they are going to come out against Trump
when he goes along to his Dark Lord.
Right, that's major. The Kochs control a lot of money. I don't think that there are any
they are the Illuminati. There's nobody else in there. It's just
There's
them.
nobody bigger. There's nobody richer on the GOP side than the fortune that the Kochs control or Koch controls. And for him to say, nah, it is our intention to make sure that Trump is not the next president. He is the first and most powerful and biggest voice to officially come out and say that. And Trump has a lot going on right now. If he is convicted in any way of the sexual assault of Patricia Carroll, that's real. And he's got
That's jail time.
They've got these financial crimes for him, not only just that $1.6 million fine or whatever, but the IRS stuff. He's being investigated right now, the Stormy Daniels thing, which ties into political fundraising and all these sorts of campaign finance, blah, 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 blah. All of these things, plus Georgia, plus there's a lot going on. We know why he's desperate to be president. I don't know that there are too many people in the party who are desperate to have him as president. He's a great stalking horse, but I don't think the institutional will is there for him now that they have seen what they have gotten. They were willing to follow him when they didn't know exactly what was going to happen, especially if they had drunk the Flavor Aid. It was Flavor Aid. It was not Kool-Aid in Jonestown. So they sipped that beverage, thinking that he was going to deliver. He was going to be the next best thing to Reagan. He didn't do any of it.
No.
He didn't get anything done except eventually a vaccine that he sidelined in favor of ivermectin and hydrochloroquine and pouring bleach
And
on your insides and
putting sunlight in the body.
in your asshole. Yeah, all of that. That was his solution. And so it's not the bestest of looks for Trump, but
technically they didn't ride with him until the end anyway, right? He had already obliterated everybody that they were backing, so they came to where they had to ride with him, right? So he never really had their backing in the first place last time around. So and I'm waiting on
the base.
And I'm waiting on Chan to do something real clever with Coke. You keep saying Coke. I'm waiting on Chan to do something real clever with that.
Challenge.
Just take a moment.
You gotta
go ahead.
With all the things that are going on, can we just take a moment to just shout out the brilliance and the gift that is Letitia James, New York's Attorney General?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She's
definitely got her advice right now, and it's a beautiful thing.
I'm not touching any Coke today.
Just today? Okay.
Whoop! You're telling on yourself, Chan.
I knew he was gonna come through.
Trump feels like Charlie Brown looks after Lucy 6. Yeah, exactly. That's fairly accurate.
But
Tish
I am
James and
seeing
Alvin
Tisha.
Bragg is absolutely. Tisha and Fonnie.
Yes.
Both of those women are doing the Lord's work. And
once again, Black women trying to save this damn country.
well, see, that's Patrice putting her arms up. And I don't know that we have said it, but once again, we try to keep it D9 up in here. We have two ladies from two different sororities for the first time in a long time. We usually have, the whole Sharpie team has been Crimson and Cream for the longest, but now we got some pink and green up into the mix. So we got the Crimson and Cream in 3 quadrants, and then we have pink and green sporting the hashtag Black Women Vote to keep it gully for the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Sir, CJ, I'd like to have a word with you.
No, I'm not saying all the time, CJ. I'm not saying it was the first time. I'm just saying that this time we have 4. And now
4 whole, because we had 3.
We had 3 with you. I was outnumbered that time. Can we say, before we get into the 1619 project, because that's our big segment today, I just have to close out because again, George Santos is still having a time of things. So I have this is not a headline anyone wants to have associated with them.
Oh my God.
Who wants a headline that says Representative George Santos was charged in 2017 with stealing puppies from Amish dog breeders. This is a guy.
What did the Amish ever do to him?
Right. Besides commit fraud on welfare, there was a big Amish welfare fraud case up in the Northeast a while back. So they ain't all clean. They learned the technology to steal, but you know, I'm sure it wasn't the same group that were trying to make an honest living from breeding puppies. But
So-
how do you steal? Why would you do that?
So okay.
Writing those hot checks.
Well, that's what it was. He was writing checks, and supposedly, maybe it wasn't him because the signatures on the checks, there were different signatures. He claims in retrospect that the checkbook was stolen, but the checks had his name on them, and they were bouncing. The account was overdrawn, and so this is the guy who first came into trouble with our canine friends by stealing $3,000 on a GoFundMe for a dog that had cancer, and the dog eventually died because the money didn't go to the unhoused veteran who was keeping the dog, and the dog eventually died, and he ran off with the $3,000. Now he's stealing puppies from the Amish.
Wait a minute. So did he actually have the puppies?
Well,
He got
was-
No.
Yeah,
he was charged, but you know what? I'm going to say yes, because he was just going to lie anyway.
So
you
whether
might as well
the
take this
checkbook was stolen or not, if you got the
The
puppies,
puppies, you know what? He probably gave them to Marjorie Taylor Greene in retrospect.
and she was probably yelling at him.
habeas
Yes.
canine, you know, like where they at?
Yeah, produce
Well,
the
yeah,
puppies.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, is this the same guy who signed the Declaration of Independence?
Yes, I'm sure.
May as well.
Okay, that's
No.
him. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
And he had been, and he was with Gore when Gore created the internet.
the internet.
Got you. That's the dude.
That's what it was. Oh, and he has more Grammys than Beyonce.
Well, he doesn't like to brag about that, you know.
He doesn't, but he does.
He's
He
not-
has more.
he's
And
not-
he actually wrote Harry Styles' album.
That's the
He's,
ticket.
he's uncredited, but he did
Mhm.
write it. And so that win for Album of the Year really goes to Anthony George DeValder Santos.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, no credits for the George Clinton P-Funk stuff either.
Right.
No, I think
Maybe
it's
I
G-Funk.
believe Flashlight was his brainchild.
Yes, exactly.
Oh
No,
you
Land of
Yeah,
the Mothership.
Like, you could at least
Mothership,
put
right.
him
He
on
created the
other
mothership.
song.
That's right, because his mother created the DeValder Foundation. So that's where it came from. She came
Was
from
that before after she
Brazil.
died in the Holocaust?
No, she came over on a ship from Brazil. That was the original mothership.
Ah,
His mother
Okay.
was on the
His
ship.
mother's
Yeah.
ship.
yeah.
See, if
Got
you don't
it.
pay attention, you're not going to understand the truth. Of
Oh, so we're just
everything
not deep
that's going on.
enough for his truth.
No,
Yeah.
we're not. We can't appreciate it. But let's talk about the 1619 project, the music episode. So I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let y'all, especially Rob, who has not had a chance to enter into the conversation as much. I would like for you, Rob, to give me your perspective on the music episode of the 1619 project. What about the episode really spoke to you?
A bunch. So I'll start with the fact that it was way more rich, and I remember listening to the podcast when
Mhm.
my family and I were driving through Alabama, actually, listening to the 1619 project. It was kind of cool. And I actually went back and listened to it again. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the same. But what I appreciated about the series, the current series, is how rich it was, right? The first one, the podcast delved a lot into antebellum, slavery, and at the end it talked about Motown, right? The last 5 minutes, actually, I checked. But this one was so much more rich, man. As you brought in the female artists, as you talked about Motown, as you talked about there's one part that and we could talk, and I'll add in before, but the piece that hit me the most was a lot, actually. But the piece that stuck with me the most and resonated the most was the dopest time I ever had in a club was in New Orleans. And all night this DJ was playing like current hip hop songs
Mm-hmm.
and then the original songs
Mm-hmm.
all night. And I was like, yo, that's what that is? Oh, yo, murdered it, right? So, you know, so when they were talking about that segment about sampling and how, you know, paying homage to like the music that our parents were listening to, and now our generation is now sampling it, and they said something important, and I'll shut up. They said something important that stuck with me about these songs with sampling that we don't know what it is,
but it feels familiar.
Right? And those are the popular songs. Like, yo, there's something catchy about this, right? So I thought that was dope. So I'll stop there. I got a bunch. You know, so before I sign up, I didn't know how deep Nile Rodgers was in
Yes.
music history, because now it makes sense why I like Duran Duran. It makes sense like Madonna. Who else was he on? He was on all kind of folk, man.
Blondie.
You know what I'm saying? So
Soul Glow.
Soul Glow. He was on, bro. So yeah. So I'll stop there, and so thank you. Yeah.
All right, Joy.
I have to say I was impressed as well with the to Rob's point, like, you know, the original podcast, the book, etc., does more about the front end, you know, Negro spiritual slavery, using music to help chart your escape route, and then letting that music inform the early spirituals, and then it becoming, you know, hymns, gospels, first American classic music, etc., being recognized in Europe, and then informing what came after it. But then it kind of stopped. And so this show did a good job of talking about everything that came after it. They got into music that I grew up with, you know, and things that resonated with me. And I love, to Rob's point, I love the examples of sampling. There were a couple times I was like, I didn't think about that, you know, especially what was the one, Stevie Wonder to Old Dirty Bastard, the intro to I Like It Raw. I didn't know where that piano came from. And now I'm like, oh, snap. And I like that he said, rap artists use these samples as an homage to the original, because a lot of people feel like they're ripping them off for a cheap cut. And they're like, and the more I listen to music and I hear the samples, especially when they take something soulful, like Common, and, you know, Before You Lock My Love Away, Let Me Testify, you know, and using a song that was deep and meaningful from before, and then bringing it back to, you know, to rap music. And like you said, finding something familiar. I remember watching the TV show on Netflix. What was it? Rhythm and Flow. It was T.I., Cardi B, and Chance the Rapper. And they talked about sampling as a way to introduce a new artist, because it gives them an avenue to come in on something that sounds familiar and maybe get a top 50, top 40 track, and then give homage to somebody in the background, you know. So find a song there that was a hot hit in the 90s or the early 2000s, and then repurpose it. And then, you know, of course, now we understand sampling, we give credit, et cetera, because I like what Niall said about Sugar Hill Gang and Rapper's Delight. That's the first song I ever learned all the lyrics to, right? I can do it right now, but we only have a little bit of time left, and that is an 8-minute song. But noting that came from good times.
The chicken tastes like wood.
Say what? Yes. No. Chicken tastes like wood.
Like wood.
But knowing that and seeing the whole history of music and how one evolves into another. I had a conversation earlier today around jazz music and the word jazz and where it came from. And one thing that they would have corrected the person I was speaking to earlier, because her father is a renowned musician, and I'm not going to use their name because I didn't get permission to do so. But her father is a world-renowned jazz trumpeter. And they don't like the word jazz because they knew, remember when they were coming up, and they were on that scene as it was all being formed, jazz is a euphemism for the music. Well, it was music that was played in areas of ill repute. And if you replace the A with an I in the word jazz, you understand where it comes from. And so to use
Wow.
that word to reference a genre of music that has become really, honestly, the only American classical music, call it what it is, because to relegate it to jazz is, again, to give white supremacy the chance to box us in. This is Negro music, right? Race music. It's jazz. It's all Black. When in actuality, it's American classical music. But you have to recognize Black people as Americans to label it that way, and not doing that allows them to continue to relegate us to the sideline. You know?
Great point.
Patrice? Or no, Rob, did you have something before I go to Patrice?
No. I'll wait.
I think the thing that I took away from that conversation and from the episode was that every musical genre in this country has its origins in music that we created.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, I have been a Nile Rodgers fan for my whole life. So I was so happy to see him get his flowers, and also happy to have him recognize that his catalog is beyond extensive. And I was very, very amused at how he kept it classy when he says, well, when I heard my song on the Sugar Hill Gang and I wasn't getting paid, he says, we hadn't arranged it in a conversation. He kept it real classy to say, I sent my lawyers after them to say cease and desist, and then they cut a check. But because he's a better human than most of us,
right?
He made that statement with a lot of grace and a lot of dignity.
Nile, this is a person who, I mean, if you came up in the period of time that I did, so I was born in 1968, so Le Freak,
yes,
and Good Times, and Everybody Dance, do 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 do, clap your hand, clap your hand, don't do 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 do, everybody dance,
You got
do 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 do, clap your hand, and about you, he is the greatest dancer. I mean, they don't ever see. I mean, it was just, this was music that was undeniably excellent, and it makes so much sense that a hip hop group that is trying to create a song would use something with one of the undeniable grooves of Chic or Nile Rodgers to be the underlying element of their whole thing, because it's so hummable. It's already an earworm. Everybody already knows it. And here you are coming out and you're laying your own thing on roller skating. That's right, Vera. These are things that were the fabric of our lives. And to the extent that you have Black artistry being embraced these days, especially when, somebody like Eminem, who I give credit to Eminem for being a lyricist, but he has won more rap album Grammys than any Black person. And that don't make no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And so we see imitation. Dreamgirls addressed it about, people like Pat Boone taking race music, taking soul music and cleaning it up and making it anodyne and making it acceptable. Or perhaps the biggest person, Elvis Presley, who not only was taking music, but when you listen to how he sings, he patterned his entire singing off of a Black vocalist. I mean, if you put the records together, you'd be like, well, which one is Elvis? Because he literally tried to make his voice sound like this brother who could do the most. I mean, it's like, well, wait a goddamn minute. And then you listen to Hound Dog and the original woman who made Hound Dog a hit. That song is so much better than that Elvis Presley. Yeah, Hound Dog.
That song slaps. Yes.
Slaps. Absolutely slaps. And so that really spoke to me as far as what music, and when you think about some of the billionaires in this country who have become billionaires off music, David Geffen bought an island, y'all, like an island off of music. And so, Michael Jackson's estate is about to sell a 50% share of the catalog that he owns, not just his stuff, but the stuff that he owns as
Because he owns
well.
the Beatles catalog, didn't he?
Well, I think what's his name got that back. I think they sold that earlier because he's been gone a long time and they were trying to sell something. I think Paul McCartney got the balance of that back. But still, a 50% stake in that catalog is rumored to be going for $800 to $900 million. And the estate will still be able to control it. It's just that they're gonna split profits on it. That's how much music means in this world is in terms of an artistic expression. And so just the ability for you to completely absorb music, you can carry music anywhere. Things, we're still singing happy birthday to you. And
we're singing Stevie Wonder nowadays.
Well, we're singing Stevie Wonder. There's a couple of different ones, but the point is that music is one of the very few forms of artistic expression that you can fully manifest in yourself without any assistance, without any other things. You don't need an instrument to enjoy music. And listening to that lovely young lady who's made the round of TikTok, starting off by singing SWV's Weak and then singing that Janet Jackson cover with that keening voice and those teeth that need some attention.
Sir.
Everybody can enjoy music. Everyone can enjoy music, and that's what makes it super duper special. So I have a video. Go ahead.
Before you get to the video, I did want to touch on one thing you mentioned around rap music and records. One of the things that I liked that they talked about was as rap was evolving into its own thing, the fact that they said a lot of Black parents in South Bronx and poor neighborhoods, et cetera, they couldn't afford to give their kids instruments, but they did have records. And that's why you end up with them rapping over beats. So the reason disco, and I love the whole thing about disco sucks. I didn't know that either, that the whole anti-disco movement was really race-based because disco was a Black and Puerto Rican thing. And so disco sucks, right? And they effectively killed that genre. But then we revived it as Black and Puerto Ricans. Let's not leave the rest of them out of the rap game either, but revived it and used the records that our parents had, turned a vinyl album into a percussionist instrument with scratching. Now you can do whatever you want, and you never had to do anything other than borrow the same set of turntables and take them everywhere you went, and get your parents' records and scratch the hell out of them, unfortunately. But I love that we created something out of literally nothing, right? Once again. And I also, one of the things that they didn't mention before you go to the video, square dancing was one thing that I was hoping they would talk about, and they didn't, because square dancing and country music as a whole, but square dancing in particular is very much seen as a white thing to do. But square dancing, the way we do it now, the way it is done now, originated out of enslaved people having to be the callers and musicians, etc., for white parties, cotillions, balls, whatever, and they would instruct you what to do, and then they would go home later and make fun of them and do the round your partner, do, and that's why it had a cadence and a rhyme to it. That's kind of, you might want to say it's early rap music, but the cadence and the rhyme and the more of a upbeat tempo, and white people heard it and they ridiculed it as slave music and unfit for civilized people, but with steady dancing, and they just took it. Same thing with everything else. They don't like it until they can make money off of it, and then it belongs to them.
Right. Well, it's you say something about square music and the calling out. And now today, the most popular party music, if you go to any wedding, if you go to any graduation, if you go to any anniversary, slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, everybody clap your hand. Okay, thank you for all doing it. I was like, are they going to do it? But I'm glad they did it. So here's what I wanted to show. This was it ties into music. I thought it tied into music so well that I thought it was a really good fit. So this is the first thing. This is a teacher, Beyonce and Drake's latest. Oh, absolutely. And let's just say, I meant to touch on this before while you were kind of on the topic. House music. Yeah. I went to high school outside of Chicago. House music completely emerged from the Black and Puerto Rican LGBTQ community, created the genre of house music.
Mhm.
And Beyonce, when she was doing her album, she dedicated it to her uncle, who was a gay or same-gender loving Black man. And those influences that are, run throughout her entire album. Like I said, I've said before when we were talking about the Beyonce tickets, I am not one of those people who appreciates everything that Beyonce puts out. I really liked the first album. And then it was kind of hit or miss. I appreciated the hits, the things that became viral, Single Ladies and Formation and all that stuff. And there were a bunch of tracks off Lemonade that I really liked. But Renaissance was an album where I was able to listen to the whole thing. And I was like, God damn, this is another banger. Like, wow, I just didn't even understand. And when she came out with Break My Soul and then Energy, I was like, okay, I see what she's doing. She's really trying to do the thing. And I would say that Drake's album is
moving on.
It's kind of like a bootleg male Renaissance, kind of. It's more like the Dark Ages as opposed to the Renaissance, but I get it. Whatever. He's Drake. He still gets no love on that them shots he was trying to throw at Megan. So anyway, this teacher, this video came into our time. I thought maybe Joy dropped it in there. This is a man who is literally doing the work of the Lord. And so I want you to appreciate, he is teaching second graders earth, wind, and fire. Here we go.
Come on, ba-da-da, ba-doo-doo, ba-doo. Come on.
They're gonna remember that for the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their lives.
He was raised right, and I love him for this.
Yes.
Remember, he's probably in his 30s. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was raised right.
No, he isn't that old.
He's raised right.
So this is another thing that I saw, and I thought at first that this was just this young lady who actually put this out, but I come to find out that it's actually one of those viral memes that people are doing. But this to me was just a perfect example of how Black people will take something that is on its face very simple and transform it into something that is absolutely amazing. So I'm gonna play this one because this moved me.
Thanks, fabada, a goobada, a gay, the fuck, deaf for gooba, sexy.
So if you can't see that, it's hard to see. Those were the names of the notes in the chord.
Like FACE, and she's like
FACE.
CEBD.
Yes. So wait, hold on. We got
play it again. Now that we know that.
Thanks, fabada, a goobada, a gay, the fuck, deaf for gooba, sexy.
All I need is an 8-track beat underneath that, and that is a banger.
I could not. When she said, the fuck? I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the Buddha.
Yo.
But let us give her credit for doing her vocal exercises.
Yes, she does do her vocal exercises.
Studying her craft.
Studying her craft, all of that. And TikTok is full. I mean, you can't even get through TikTok without seeing some people who are doing some amazing things vocally. All these people who are, singing a cappella and taking songs and making them their own. And
let's not forget the girl. What was it, a year ago when she all it was is she was tired. She was about to go get on her couch.
Yeah, that's right.
About to go lay down.
Right.
Having everyone get in on that, and the choruses, the remixes, the church skits, everything. There's another thing I want to talk about real quick. Black joy is a form of resistance.
Yes.
Yep.
And it never ceases to amaze me how many people who are not Black get irritated when they see us having fun when they think we're not supposed to.
Right.
And I am here for it. I will continue to do it. Don't police my ability to find some spark of joy in
Right.
this random, rabid, revisionist history country that I live in. If I'm having a good time, don't be mad that I'm having a good time. Another video, and I'll quit talking in a second. This is a Black Brit, as a matter of fact. I don't know who it is because I don't remember the names on the bottom of the screen. But remember that British woman from You Are the Weakest Link? And she had a British voice. She is doing some of the game show over in Britain. And you're supposed to use some jumble of letters across the top of the screen to make words. And the clock is ticking like tick, 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 tick. And so it's got rhythm. The one Black guy that's there who is not writing shit down, right? He ain't writing words. He's like, ha, Sita, gonna eat a pizza with my girl named Rita. Do you know Rita? And he's just doing his own. And then it's going to Ibiza, going to eat some pizza. And he's just having a good time. And they are aggravated AF with him. And then when they finish everything and they're like, okay, do you have a word? Whatever words he had put up there, I want to say his word was something like blood clot or something. And they were like, that's not a word. He goes, yes, it is. It's absolutely a word. And he goes, oh, come on, then give us a smile. And she's like, no, beep, 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 and walked off the stage because she was so mad at him having too much fun during the time break.
Well, I guess she was the weakest link.
She was aggravated because he was
Goodbye.
Fun.
Peace.
Okay, so now I got to find that clip. Why did you do that to me?
So there's some things, a couple of things I want to talk about, bring up. So, I'm glad you guys talked about the whitewashing of Black music. So it was cool that they brought up the fact that once you got television and you got Motown, can't whitewash us no more. Now you got to see, right? So that was kind of dope. And the other thing, about yacht rock.
Yes.
Yo.
One of my friends, shout out to Sherry.
Oh, that podcast episode 16, the yacht rock episode was fire.
Bro,
fire.
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins, and when you that song that should have been a Michael Jackson song, you're leaving in time, and you're just wondering why. That should have been a Michael Jackson song, for real, right. Because all of that smooth part. Here by your side, never will believe. Yeah, all of that. You think that maybe it's over?
Yes, sir.
Not even I want it to be. And what's in your life? Here's your miracle. Yeah, this is it. That's what I was waiting for. I couldn't get the chorus. This is it. Yeah, so. That should have been a Michael Jackson song, but Kenny Loggins freaked it now.
And
Michael McDonald ain't nothing but a Black man with asthma.
You couldn't tell me, like from Hall & Oates, we all believe that Oates had a little something in him.
Oh yeah.
Daryl Hall was all kind of blonde, but
right.
John Oates, bruh, you Puerto Rican or something. There's some African ancestry in that curly hair.
But you know what? I'm glad they gave the that's funny. That's funny as hell. I'm glad they gave the big ups to Marvin Gaye. What's going on?
Yes.
Like that album, like that was the first album I remember listening, like Tom said earlier, all the way through. And it was just impactful on so many levels at that time. But here's what I wish they would have did. And of course, everybody gonna have to wish it. But giving it up to Prince and that guitar. And, if they had to play, what's the song called? While My Guitar Weeps or something like that.
Oh yeah, While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yo, clearly giving it up to him as the greatest guitarist ever.
Also, I remember seeing David Grohl from the Foo Fighters in an interview, and he talked about the Foo Fighters and their and him being, he goes, I really don't want people telling me that I'm a great drummer and I'm an innovative drummer. He goes, I got a lot of my drumming style from Earth, Wind, and Fire. He came out and said Earth, Wind, and Fire. He named a couple other bands, but that's the one I remember. But I appreciated him saying that.
Yep. And I remember people in the comments were like, well, give him that money then.
I mean, we ain't doing all that.
And that's a bridge too far, Rob.
Hey man, well, you know, I feel like, hey, listen, I feel like all this is you know, they owe, you know, the whole part of the whitewashing of the music. Hey man, that's another chapter in the book of reparations.
Right.
He may be a Foo Fighter, but he's not a fool fighter.
He's not a fool.
He is not a fool fighter. Okay, so I found the clip, Joy. So I want to share it with everybody because you made me go find it. The Ann Robinson is the presenter's name, and the show is called Countdown. Here we go.
Fantastic.
R, A, and T.
Okay.
Start the clock.
We'll start the clock. Mr. Geezer, put the cans in the freezer. Ann Robinson. Ann Robinson. Have a breezer.
Okay. Okay. We don't do that.
Why can't you do that?
No.
Get a couple of cans, get them in the freezer. Shirley and Lisa. Gonna have a pizza. Do you know Rita? You don't know Rita? We're gonna have a pizza. Oi.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Boom. I've got all the letters, Susie. Blood clot. Fantastic. So what do I win, eh?
That's not a word.
That's a word. You're a bit moody, ain't you?
Is it blood
Come on, give us a smile.
It's not a word.
And you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
And that's when you just end that with saying your mama.
Right? The way that brings me so much happiness. Because she was like, we don't do that. He goes, why not?
Right. Why can't you do that?
Fun, but they wanted to police his happiness instead.
Do you know Rita?
I'm gonna get a pizza. And here's the thing: it's not like it was even good. That was like some third grade bullshit, but it just rankled her so much. And he said, "You are the weakest link. Goodbye." I was done. And first of all, saying blood clot.
Blood.
Oh. And she said it looks like a parody. I don't care. Don't kill my joy.
It doesn't matter. That was hilarious.
Oh no, that's not a parody. That is not.
You gotta understand, British television is way different than American television.
Oh, they're wild.
Oh yeah, they
had a whole TV show called Spot the Willie. And yes, it's what you think it is.
Whoop.
All right.
There's a bunch of balloons. They had to keep popping them. So
low beats. All right. I would like to, before we close the show, I would like to give a special shout out to our two special guests. Yeah, thank you, Jason. We know the blood now. Granted, the only way he could spell it was BLUTCLAT. That's the only way he could spell blood clot out of those letters. But maybe that's not what.
With a British accent, it'll be different. You know,
with a British accent, yeah. So I just want to give a special shout out. I'm gonna put them up at the top of the screen. Patrice Marshall McKenzie, Rob McGowan, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for lending your voices to Steel Sharpens Steel. This is the spirit of what our show is all about. Having people come on and talk and share their perspectives and put us into the position of also expounding on things that are thoughts of our own, but are made all the greater when we're able to share those things with folks like yourself.
I want to add to that, our Sharpies, all of our Sharpies are sharp in particular. We thank you all. Because Patrice is in the comments all the time. That's how we found her, but also, I've heard some of our guests or some of our fans and commenters say that we are so smart. We are so articulate. We are so well read, et cetera, et cetera. Any one of y'all can do this because that's who our audience is. And I love y'all for coming on and showing people this is what we do. This is who we are. And I love having y'all here tonight. Y'all are welcome back anytime.
And I was gonna put Chan's comment on, but I am not, because Chan won't agree to come onto the show. So you can just sit in your own.
Right.
Come
Let
on,
us have
Chan.
this, Chan. Let us
Why do
have
you keep
fun.
denying us your brilliance, Chan?
I know that's right, Chan.
That's
You front
unfair.
end. You
That's a
front
public
end.
benefit. You should share.
Front
Hey,
end.
so maybe Chan is like he got to be on the pen, on the pad. He can't come off the dome.
That's what he told us.
Oh, maybe that's
Yeah,
it.
he did. He did say that. I mean, we listen. A few episodes way back during the Trump Pence debates, we had Fly Sean on. So if Fly Sean can be on the show, then Fly Chan can be on the show too. So we'll
listen,
put
to
an
your
audio
point,
avatar on there.
To your point, Joy. I mean, I was like, I don't know, Tom, because y'all some smart cats. You know what I'm saying? Y'all smart.
No, but that's what makes our show what our show is. And so it's a bunch of people bringing their brilliant perspectives to the whole thing. And so we're going to close it out the way that we always do. Since you guys are up at the top, you get to start it. And so it'll go in
Clockwise.
It'll go clockwise. So all you got to say is I'm, and then say your name.
Patrice.
I'm Patrice Marshall McKenzie.
I'm Rob McGowan.
I'm Tom Cunningham.
And I am Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel.